All right, we welcome you to our latest edition of Inside the Orange. Pleased to be joined this week by Kyle Fetterly, the head equipment manager at Syracuse University. Been in that role since 1983. Kyle joining us now. Always great to chat with you. How are you today, Kyle?
Great. How are you guys?
We're doing very well. So, again, the whole concept behind this, Kyle, is that we want to get to know, people that we see, work behind the scenes. Maybe we see them on game day, but a lot of fans, don't necessarily know the person. So we want to get to know Kyle Fetterly, the person, over the course of the next half hour. And I guess let's start with, how you ended up at Syracuse University, how you ended up in this role way back in 1983.
I showed up as a freshman here on campus. I'm an alum. In 77, there was an opening for student equipment managers in the equipment room. Came in. Back then, there was only 3 of us. I think we have 15 now that handle football, plus others that handle the other sports, basketball, lacrosse, soccer, obviously. And in 1980, I was moving on. I was going to take off and try something else, and then all of a sudden the assistant's job opened up. They foolishly hired me, and a couple years later, they made me the head equipment manager. Again, I was ready to move on. I was going to go to Anheuser-Busch and work for them. I got offered a job up there. It was a big title with it was Northeast Regional, director of marketing or promotion or something like that. And I was excited. I asked them if I could have the weekend to think it over. And I raced back here to put in my 2-week notice. And when I got here, the head equipment manager, who was a guy by the name of Bob Knickerbocker, said, "Geez, that's great. I'm happy for you. How interested are you in this job?" And I said, "Well, I love working here." I said, "But I'm not making any money." I said, "I'm going to go to Budweiser to make money." He goes, "Well, I'm leaving for Michigan State, and they want you to take over." And I was like, "Holy cow! Now I really do have a decision to make." And and I'd been an assistant up till then, and that was 1983. I became the head equipment manager, but I was the assistant 3 years prior to that.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, no.
I was just going to ask, Kyle, what exactly does the head equipment manager do for Syracuse?
What do? I manage equipment. No, what do we do? Let me tell you what. I get asked this quite a bit. You know what I tell people? I'm Winston Wolfe. And if you don't know Pulp Fiction, you don't know who I'm talking about. Winston Wolfe was the fixer in Pulp Fiction. And that's what used to happen. And people come up. Kayla Trainer always asks me, "Kyle, you going to be able to do this?" And I always say, I'm Winston Wolfe. Don't worry, I'll get it done. Because Winston Wolfe's classic line was, "Hi, I'm Winston Wolfe. I solve problems." And that's really what we do here. I mean, we do solve a lot of problems, but we order equipment, we maintain equipment, we work with the coaches to see what they want, how they want to purchase things, and we put our suggestion in what we think they need, because I think sometimes coaches tend to get a little tunnel vision on what they think they need. And our big thing is safety for the kids. So that's the number one thing we're always worried or concerned the most about is safety, customer service for the athletes and coaches, repair and maintenance, packing and unpacking for all the road trips, and even the home trips too. Because when you go to the JMA Dome up there, that's an away trip for us because we're at Manley Fieldhouse. So, it's a full-time job. I mean, the bottom line is I've got 4 full-time assistants, about to get a 5th, and believe me, we could actually use more. Most teams in the ACC are around 7 to 9 equipment people because it's that involved. I mean, the expectation is great from these coaches, and we're here before everybody arrives. We're here after everybody leaves. And like I said, repair, maintenance, ordering, controlling their budget, not controlling their budgets, but monitoring their budgets on what they're going to need, because obviously prices go up every year, as everyone in America knows right now.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, those are things we gotta, and sometimes you gotta make some hard choices on what you want to purchase, what you want to buy based on your budget, and of course we have to keep coaches informed of that type of thing. And I'm sure I'm leaving out a myriad of things, but those are the main functions of what we do here every day. People always say, "Boy, I'd love to have that job," and I said, "Yeah, you see Saturday at 1:00. You should try coming right after the game on Saturday, and the next 6 days building up to the next game." I said, "So there are no days off. We're working all the time."
I was just going to mention that everybody sees like the players in their uniforms, their coaches in their headsets on Saturday.
Yep.
And I'm lucky enough to go to all the games myself, and maybe you could just give a layman's terms version of what goes into and how all of the equipment gets to even just an away game for Syracuse football, whether it's helmets, pads,
Sure,
telecom equipment, everything.
Sure. I'll tell you what, Paulie, it starts honestly right after the game on Saturday. We bring it all back from the JMA Dome, and then we start washing it, checking it for repairs. All the trunks that you see on the sideline, we have to go through them to make sure they're adequately filled for the next game. Especially with some days you hardly go in those trunks. Other days you're ripping through them and taking things out things that are needed. It could be something as simple as a coach breaking a grease marker pen. You got to have extra grease markers, or a player needs new wristbands or new gloves, or we've had ripped pants, so we got to run into the locker room and have a kid change a pair of pants, broken face mask or bent face mask, or chin straps, things like that. All these little things, ripped jerseys. I mean, we have had, and believe me, in my 42 years, we have seen and had it all go wrong. So you've got to be prepared for those types of things. And from there, we have to start the process of checking everything in, cleaning it, repairing it if it need be. It's got to go out to the tailors to get clean for the next, or get repaired for the next week. Then we have to start packing the trunks for the following week to go back on the road. And, when you see that tractor trailer that they show every now and then, you see it around town too, over at John Cleland's Moving and Storage there, Greater Syracuse Moving and Storage. That baby's full, front to back, top to bottom for football. And it's not just our equipment in there, but it's all the sports medicine equipment, coolers and the pop-up tent for the sideline hospital tent, so to speak, and all that kind of stuff. Everything goes on the road with us. Probably half of it we sometimes use or don't even use at all, but you have to be prepared just in case. All the footballs, I mean, on and on and on. Kicking nets, things like that, things you don't think of, we have to think of. Obviously all the player travel bags that have helmets, shoulder pads. We have to bring extra helmets and shoulder pads. How about every single kid that's traveling has to have the exact pair of cleats he's wearing as a backup pair in a giant truck? Helmets, same type of thing. Shoulder pads, same type of thing. So it's just a quick, something happens, kid can rip off whatever that equipment is and put a new piece on, and the whole goal is to maybe only miss one play. That's the goal. So it's quick. And then, this isn't just our operation. That's every operation in America that does this. And then you get into other sports where it's a little bit less demanding. But football, believe me, we've already started summer workouts. So from now on, it's pretty much 7 days a week, right until we go to a bowl game.
When does that truck leave for a road game? If you guys are playing Saturday, how much of that equipment is used for practices, or is it completely separate? And when does it head out to the road game?
Thursday at noon, that truck takes off. And that'll cover us anywhere pretty much on the eastern seaboard. We will fly the equipment to Miami if we have to go there. We have trucked to Florida State before, but if we fly to Florida State, we have to get a huge plane. because think about it. You got to put a tractor trailer on the bottom of a plane. Essentially what goes on, not to mention all the overnight bags. So, I mean, it can get kind of complex. Clemson's about a 12, 13-hour ride. Louisville's about 16, for our trucking company to get there. And of course, right after the game, they got to get it back here because we got to get it torn apart and start again for the next week. So there can be some anxious moments when if the truck breaks down, believe me.
It makes conference expansion sound even more crazy now.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. Kyle, we've got an interesting question coming in on QSportsTalk.com.
Yeah.
Ryan Mullen asking, what do you do with basketball players who want to wear customized shoes?
That's on them. If they want to wear customized shoes, that's on them. We purchase shoes for all the basketball players and multiple pairs. But if they want a custom ID on their shoe, their name and numbers and stuff like that, that's something that they have to do. They turn the receipt into us. We pay for it. But that's kind of on them to do that. We don't get that. I haven't got the time to spend doing those types of things. If you've ever done that online, it's quite elaborate.
Well, who's got the biggest feet you've ever seen of an athlete at Syracuse?
An odd question.
No, because he's bringing up these shoes. There's got to be one that just had to have the biggest feet.
Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal. He was here in 2009 with the Celebrity Sports Broadcasting Camp up at Newhouse. You probably, Steve, you might remember that.
Yeah, I do remember it. Yeah,
he came in here, and we didn't have shoes that big, so he had them flown in, a pair of 22s, and he worked out
22,
size 22, and he worked out with our men's lacrosse team as we were preparing for the Final Four. He lifted with them, and he started tweeting about him. He was saying that my boys are going to take the national championship and all this other stuff. He came out to practice, and they offered to let him get out there and play. And he says, no, that ball's a little too hard. I get hit in the head with a basketball. It only stuns me for a second. That'll put me out, So he was a great guy. But so I will say this: for that week, he was a Syracuse athlete. So he's our biggest shoe.
And that's a great segue into what else I wanted to get into with this, because, you put in a lot of hours. It's hard work, but I would imagine it's also a pretty rewarding line of work. And you must have great stories to tell from the last, 40 years, and the athletes you met and the coaches you met and the places you got to go. What as you look back on the last 4+ decades, what has been the favorite part of this job for you?
I think, the kids, honestly. I mean, they're the ones, quite honestly, Steve, they keep you young. The jargon that they use and the stuff like that, I mean, they really, I enjoy working with the students, the men and the women, every day. I mean, I'll never forget women's lacrosse coming in here, and Riley Donahue, who was a real good player for us. She sat there and said one day, I said she needed a new pair of shoes, and I gave them to her, and I opened them up, and she goes, "Oh, I can't wear those. Those are dusty." And I said, looked at her and said, "What do you mean they're dusty? They're brand new. I just opened the box." She goes, "No, Kyle, they're dusty." Like that. She goes, I said, "What's that mean?" "Well, they're not in style." That's what that meant, So, I mean, you learn jargon like that. And then another one was a NARP. I said, "NARP? What the hell is NARP?" Like that. She goes, "These are what non-athletic regular people wear." So, I mean, you learn stuff like that from the kids. I mean, that are funny, keep you young, and we really have a good time, because they know I have a terrific sense of humor. They have a terrific sense of humor. Or let's put it this way: we're not very woke in the equipment room or the locker rooms. Here it's Katie bar the door. There's no holds barred back here. I mean, you got to keep it clean, but believe me, everybody's got thick skin that works in an athletic department, because at the end of the day, we're all here to win, and everybody knows it. And all that other stuff is for, the politics and the people. It's not for the people who are actually trying to win championships.
If I gave you the chance to go back through your career and take one piece of equipment from any moment or any player, what would you take?
Boy, boy, I've never had a question asked. Paul, I've had just about every question asked to me I could think of. And I've never, what would I take? Boy, I don't really
sell
know,
it on eBay.
I'm around this stuff so much, I'm sick of it. You know, I only wear Syracuse shirts to work because I have to. You know, I don't wear Syracuse stuff outside this place, outside of my visor when I golf. What would I take? I don't know. Maybe, you know what? I really don't have a good answer for that. I don't know what I would take. Probably the basketball championship basketball, the actual basketball. You know,
that's a good one.
If I could, the actual ball that, you know, that when the gun went off, we had the crown in hand. I would say maybe that, or, you know, any of the 11 lacrosse championship game balls. I would take any of those. But yeah, anything when you win a national championship, it's really something. It's really special. It really is. I mean, you hear that, it's a cliche. Oh, it's really special, but until you're a part of it, and I mean, like, we are a small part of it, it really is a special thing, because people don't realize how difficult it is to win a national championship in any sport. I don't care what the sport is. You got to have you got to be good. You got to have great coaching, and you got to have some lady luck on your side too. So, I mean, it's and things have to fall right for you that day. I remember in cross country when we won in 2015, Adam Smith was assistant coach, and he was kind of buddies with all of us and hung out in the equipment room. And I said, "What do you think, Adam?" He says, "You know what, Kyle?" He says, "I'll be shocked if we don't make the podium," and that means one of the top 3 teams. And I said, "Why is that?" He says, "Well, because we finished 4th last year, and our kids were pissed, you know." And he said that, and of course we were at Louisville getting our butts kicked in football when I got a text across my phone that said, "Dude, we just won the national championship." Not so quite eloquently phrased like that, but and I was when we called him, he said, "I knew we were gonna win." I said, "How's that?" And he goes, he said, we woke up and our kids were focused. They were pissed because of last year. And so, you know, so you got to have some luck on your side, but they're special. So a championship ball from any of those sports, I would think.
I'm not going to name names, but I know someone who has an actual chair from the Superdome of that game.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
That's very cool.
You're interviewing him right now.
Oh, you got one too? Nice.
How about that?
Yep.
How about that?
Yep. Sit right in my bedroom.
Kyle, Paulie asked you about a piece of equipment. I mean, you've been at Syracuse for, Pearl Washington and Derek Coleman and Carmelo Anthony and Donovan McNabb and Dwight Freeney. And who's the best athlete that you've seen? Gary Gate, the Powells. Who's the best athlete that you've seen, in person at SU?
The funny thing is you hear that a lot in sports in general. Who's the best athlete? And they usually come down to a basketball player because of running, jumping, those types of things. And I would be, I guess, I would be really doing a dishonor to anybody if I said anybody's name. But to me, as a golfer and a guy who played baseball in high school, hand-eye is the most difficult thing in sports that there is. I mean, running and jumping are great. Believe me, they're outstanding. I can't run and I can't jump. So, that makes anybody who can do that a better athlete than me. But the hand-eye, to me, baseball, hockey, and of course, when you talk about the greatest of all time, that's Gary Gate. So to me, I've never seen anybody with a set of hands like he had, and the way he could pinpoint precision his shots. And not only that, I saw him do it obviously all those days in football and lacrosse and men's lacrosse. He took over women's lacrosse here about 12, 13, 14 years ago. And to watch him with a woman's stick, which is basically a tennis racket, and he could use that like a men's stick. go behind the back, through the legs. We were sitting. I'll give you a story. We're at the Final Four women's lacrosse at PPL Park in Philadelphia, and it's now his turn to get bombarded by the media, ask a million questions, and we're out there practicing, running around. He's standing at the 20-yard line, now right near the sideline. Now 80 yards downfield is a goal that we're not using, and he's got a bag of balls right at his feet on the ground. And the media's asking him questions. I'm off to the side, but the media's asking him questions. He picks up a ball and he's just calmly like, well, Maryland does have a great team, that's going to be a great challenge. And he fires it 80 yards, 2 bounces right in the net. All right. Okay. Then this is with a women's stick now. Then he gets asked another question and he goes, and he picks up another ball and goes, yeah, she's a great player. And he fires it again. And he still just continues to talk. Couple bounces right in the net. Well, he does this 7 straight times.
Wow.
7 straight goals from 80 yards away with a woman's stick. And the last one, I can't even remember the question that was asked of him. But the last one, he shoots it and he starts leading. He goes, and he goes, I knew I was going to be just wide on that one, and he had just missed. But I sat there and go, are you kidding me? I mean, unbelievable first of all, unbelievable that you could do it once. And he did it 7 times in a row. And I mean, that's the hands, the athleticism, because Gary could jump. We all know that from the Eric Gate shot. Yeah. But Gary Gate, in my mind, is probably the best athlete Syracuse has ever had.
We sadly don't get to talk about football as much as we want to, going to bowl games and everything. But, you were here during the glory days of Syracuse football. What was your favorite football moment in a bowl game for Syracuse? And you got some fun trips out of that. You were in Hawaii and Phoenix and everywhere. So
I'll tell you what, Paulie, I did some great golfing on those trips. There's no doubt about that. We got to go. Which was the best bowl game? I have no idea. I mean, the Phoenix Bowl was great. Obviously, the Orange Bowl, the Sugar Bowl. The big bowl games are a whole different world. Okay, the big ones. I mean, those major. What's now what is it now? The college football playoff bowls. They're a whole different world. And I got exposed to that in 1987 when we went down to the Sugar Bowl, and I remember you could drive right into the Sugar Bowl, and I drove my bowl car right up to the locker room door. I get out, it's smoking, and it's brand new. It's still got Michigan plates on it. It's brand new, it's smoking, and I see this red fluid pouring out of the bottom of it. So I'm like, oh my God, my car's broken like that. So I call the Sugar Bowl office, which I didn't know was right there in the Sugar Dome or in the Superdome. So next thing I know, this older gentleman with a southern drawl comes down with it. He's got it, and he pulls out. Back then, it wasn't a cell phone, but it was one of those big phones that filled your whole hand, so to speak. And he says, "What's the problem?" I told him, and he makes a phone call. He says, "Joe, I can't remember the guy's name. This is Dave over at the Sugar Bowl." He says, "I need you to bring a new car." He says, "Over to the visiting team locker room and give it to Kyle Fetterly, the equipment manager." He goes, "Thank you." He hangs up. He goes, "Pete," he said, "this is Dave at the Sugar Bowl. I need you to come over here." He says, "and tow this car, this wagon that's out of here, get it out of here for the new car." And then he hangs up and he says to the Sugar Bowl, "Pete, I need you to come over and clean up. We got some red fluid, looks like transmission fluid out here at the Sugar Bowl, like that. If you could do that for you." He hangs up. He looks at me. He goes, "You're all set," like that. And within a half hour, the transmission fluid was cleaned up, the car had been towed, and my new one was sitting right there. And I mean, that is the big bowl games. That's how organized these people are. We go down to the Orange Bowl. "Hey, is there any place you could get me on a golf course?" "Yeah, how'd you like to get on the Blue Monster?" I mean, and it's all paid for. They take care.
That's so cool.
They take it everything. I went to the Gator Bowl and I golfed at a Sawgrass on the stadium course. And they take care of it. I mean, it's on Greyhawk out at the TPC out in Phoenix in Arizona. I mean, so it's afforded me a lot of nice trips. I know what the worst bowl game I've ever been to. And believe me, it wasn't the one where Florida killed us. It's the one, that Auburn one, when they tied us. Because I'll say when they tied it, because that to me was still the most gutless thing I've ever seen in my life on the 12-yard line. You not going for the win, but going for the tie. That was gutless in my mind.
Sure, a lot of SU fans agree with you on that one. Paulie asked you about football. I do want to ask you about lacrosse before we wrap this up, because you are a lacrosse guy. We've enjoyed listening to you on the broadcast for years.
Yep.
How quickly can they turn this around? Gary Gate and Dave Petramala and Joey Spallina coming in, and is it a next year thing? Is it a 3 years from now? How quickly can they get this thing rolling back in the right direction to where they're back in the tournament, contending for Final Fours, contending for titles, that sort of thing?
Well, that part of it I think is going to take 2-3 years. But I mean, as far as being viable again, I think next year, and I'll tell you why. The class we got coming in is fantastic. They're sensational players. But, and Steve, I always say this, Coach Mack used to say this. He used to always say this. Freshmen are coach killers. Like that. He used to always say that. And the problem with his freshmen is, as talented as this group is coming in, there's going to be some highs and lows. I really believe that. And that's just my guess from experience. And, of course, being an analyst of the sport, when you see over the last 22 years that I've been broadcasting, you see when freshmen come in, they do great things. And they also do some pretty stupid things, too, quite honest. But that's just lack of experience. How long before we can come a contender? Well, if Dave Petramella was here, he'd be saying next year. I know that. I think that's a little ambitious, but I think within contending, within 2 to 3 years, I think we can be contending again. I don't know, but I think that's we've got that type of coaching right now. We really do. We got guys that can recruit, and we've got the JMA Dome. I always say this on air: it is the Sistine Chapel of college sports, without question. College lacrosse, without question. And both our men and women play in there. Great facilities down here. So, I mean, those guys, I know Gary from watching them with women's lacrosse, and I know Dave personally for 30 years. Those guys are relentless recruiters. So we'll get the kids here. They're good coaches. We'll get it turned around rather quickly. And like I always say to Brian 15 seconds before we go on air, how's my hair look? And he goes, you got the best hair in radio.
Last one for you, Kyle. One of our listeners, Gavendo on QSports.com, wants to know when the next equipment sale is. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, that's actually an administrative question that you can ask John Wildack. I'm not sure. But right now, I don't think we're going to have one for a while, and I'll tell you why. With all the construction we got going on in this place, with the new Lally Center entranceway and then the football wing going up, I don't think it's going to be for a couple years yet. I would like to get rid of a lot of this stuff, but believe me, I don't think it's going to happen for a little while. But you'll know.
All right,
if
Kyle.
you go to Qs.com, Qs.com will keep you informed. Tell your listeners, Qs.com will keep you informed. If we're ever having a sale, that'll be the first place it's broadcast.
All right, Kyle, this was a whole lot of fun. Any final thoughts from you as we wrap this up?
No, I'm getting ready for an exciting football season. I think football, we had a tough football, basketball, lacrosse year this past season, to say the least. I think it's going to be much better this year, and I'm really looking forward to it. All three of those sports doing very, very well. And, we got a lot of other good sports here too. So Kayla Trainer's got it going, women's lacrosse, Ange Bradley with field hockey and our rowing teams. I mean, we got some powerhouse teams here.
And we know that you'll keep everybody ready. Thank you for all.
Winston Wolf,
thank you for all you've done for 40 years.
That's right.
What's that?
Winston Wolf, I solve problems.
That's right. You do. And you're a great storyteller as well. Yep. We love having you on, Kyle. Great chatting with you. Yep. Enjoy your summer, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again real soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right. There's Inside the Orange. We'll do it again next Thursday. Enjoy the rest of the day, everybody.